सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Namaste to all of you. Last time, in the last talk, I was giving the talk about Sthita Prajna Lakshana, or the qualities of a person who is self-realized or who has reached the Nirvikalpa Samadhi. And while giving that, I gave the idea that there is nothing like a mysticism about that, mystic ideas about it. It's very clear in Arjuna's question and also Krishna's answer. It is actually like the way that a common man and his own experiences have been widened. That means from the common day-to-day experience what we have, if you can widen that into a greater perspective, that's what is the Nirvikalpa. Widen in such a way that you become one with the divinity. So this is the reason why this particular set of shlokas in the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita is very important. Now, let us recollect the idea that Arjuna says that how a person who is self-realized, who has gone into that state of experience of ultimate in what they call it as samadhi, what is the way that he is like, what is the way that he reacts, and what is the way he responds, and what is the way that all by himself he is like that. Kim prabhaseta kim asita brajeta kim. So, giving an answer to that, Krishna gives the qualities of that person who is there. Also said one thing, I would like to recollect here once again, recapitulate again. Shankaracharya putting the objection to that, saying that if somebody has that self-realization experience, in what way does it help us? For that, he gives an answer saying that whatever is supposed to be the qualities of the person who is self-realized, they are natural for him, whereas we are supposed to consciously practice those things. So there, later on, all these sutras will come. So let me go into a little detail about these sutras. I may not be able to get into all those shlokas that are there giving the Chitta Prajna Lakshanas, but let me give a few ideas which we can really emulate in our day-to-day life. And that is, he says, Prajahati yada kaman sarvan partha manogatan atmanyev atmanatushtaha sthita prajnaha tadochyate. Sthita prajna is somebody who is atmanyeva atmanatushtaha. He is satisfied within himself. That means to say he has no demand from anything, anywhere in the world outside. In fact, he approaches anything, goes anything, whatever that happens, he is filled with the gratitude. He does not have any demand for him. Even if some small little simple thing that happens to him by somebody, he'll be gratitude for that. And this is the way that even Rama's description also goes into that. But anybody does any small little benefit for him, not even that willingly he is supposed to do it, but it happens in a very casual way. Even then, Rama is very, very humble to him, pays respect. And if somebody does not do when he demands, he doesn't get upset about that. So this is what is a state called as Atmanyeva Atmanatushta, absolutely satisfied within himself. And in spite of the fact that all these kamas, all these world that is there, involved in the world, various activities that are there, but in spite of all those things, that he is not caught up in these things, he is just peaceful, blissful within himself. Now he gives one more idea about beautifully in these sutras, that is how the mind can get easily drifted away. And that is in the two different sutras he gives that, how a person can be led into in wrong direction. And that is, he says that dhyayato vishyan pumsaha sangasteshu upajayate sangat sanjayate kamaha kamat krodho bhijayate क्रोधात् भवति सम्मोहः, सम्मोहात् स्मृतिविभ्रमः, स्मृतिभ्रंशात् बुद्धिनाशः, बुद्धिनाशः प्रणश्यति. So the literal translation of it is that dhyato vishayan pumsaha, vishayan objects, when a person is constantly, repeatedly going towards that object, dhyato vishayan pumsa, sangaha teshu upajayate, then he gets an attachment to that. Sangha is getting attached to that. Sangat sanjayate kamaha, when he gets attached, naturally, the attachment leads into kamaha, desire for that. Kamat krodho vijayate. Now, when the desire is full, is there, and then this further leads us into what is called as anger, krodha. Krodhat bhavati sammohaha. Krodha is anger, and from anger, when you further it root takes roots into you, and that roots into you will result into what is called as Krodhat bhavati sammohaha. Anger makes you to forget about yourself, or in other words, that you become hypnotized into. Sammoha is hypnosis. Moha means basically that infatuation, and then sammoha is that an infatuation which is a further development of these your objective slavery into it. Sammohat smriti vibhramaha. Once you are into hypnotized into the object that is there outside, then your memory does not function. Smriti vibhramaha. Smriti gets confused. Your memory gets confused. Smriti bhramshat buddhinasha. When the smriti is lost, naturally that your intellect has no function to do. And buddhinasha pranashati. That leads you to destruction. Now, this we need to really clearly understand it because all these processes are happening with all of us. With any ordinary human being, it happens. And this we can very simply simplify in the beginning that we don't know the object. We don't have any object. But then the moment first time that you come across any object or anything for that matter, or even a person, you look at what happens that person when you see, then created an impression already in your mind. Next time when you see him, you see that, oh, I have seen him. Or I know the taste of it. I know this is like that. So that means to say you start developing the your dhyana, your attention to an object, sangaha. That means now it is already gives an association with that. We always say that, yeah, I know you, I have seen you, I know the person. It may be at any place where, strange place where you don't find anybody of persons who you know, and then you go there and you come across somebody who you already know. Oh, yeah, I know this person. That means Sangha is there. Sangat sanjayate kamaha. The more and more that we go closer and closer, repeated happening of that, it becomes kama, desire. So, like that, it develops. About the object, when we say that first time we never had tasted what is called as coffee, but then once we tasted second time, we were, oh, coffee it is? Yes, I know. I would like to have it. See, slowly what happens? I give myself to that coffee. Then third time, I would waiting for the coffee. So by that time, what happens is that it has become like a habit. So all these interactions with the world outside, they slowly become a habit for you. Your anger can be a habit, your jealousy can be a habit, your hatred can be a habit. All these things can also become like a habit within you. This is what is Sangat Sanjayate Kamaha. Now, what happens is, as long as that Kama is being fulfilled, taken care of, your desire is taken care of, objects are available for your desire, and then you are subserving that desire. Over a period of time, what happens is that if you are giving that object for the desire that you are requiring, you don't even see that how intense the desire is, how intense it is growing because every time that you desire, the object is available. But when the moment that an object is not available for your desire, then you can see that how you get irritated, how the anger comes up because that object is denied. You deserve that object and you want that object without which you become desperate. So that means to say this anger comes up at that level where you feel dissatisfied. So where is the question of I'm satisfied with myself whether something is there or not? But then once this particular satisfaction is not there, you require that object, it really hits on you. By the time what happens, even to come to the normal state of just being, you require that object. In the beginning, that object might have given you joy, but over a period of time, even to maintain your normal sense of being, you require that object. Without that object, you cannot maintain that. So therefore, this it becomes like a habit. The habit is like a demand on your system. But then what happens is that when you do not control at the level of habit, kamat krodho vijayate krodat bhavati sammoha. When you do not control at the habit level, then they become samskara, vasana. Vasana means this already started percolating into your activity. That means to say, if you do not have that object in front of you, then your natural normal activities do not take place. Like people who get addicted to coffee, they cannot think without coffee. Who get addicted to smoking cigarette? Without the cigarette, their thinking faculty will just block. So that means to say that it started interfering with your normal activity. Now, forget about that object giving you joy. The object does not takes away that your normal functioning if that object is not given. So this is the way that we get affected by the object outside. Whereas what Krishna says is that if you do not give that, it becomes anger. And you look at what happens whenever you're angry. In your anger, that you say something, you do something which normally you would not have done it. And you might say, you might shout at somebody out of anger. When the anger comes down, then you say that I'm so sorry. I said all these nonsense things for you. I really didn't want to say all those things, but what else can I do? That you said something, I'm provoked, therefore I did it. See, that means the very reaction that you find out in the case of anger is that where you are not there. Some more high is hypnosis. That's why it is called as hypnosis. Hypnosis is where you don't have control over your mind, but somebody else is controlling your mind. It is outside world is controlling your mind. You have given the power of attorney to the outside world. The outside world, whatever that it does, that you do get it. It makes you enraged, then you get enraged. You cannot smile. You cannot say, well, forget about it, that whatever you say, I can just put it aside and keep going on. That we cannot do it. Very often what happens is that we might advise to the others, please go ahead, don't worry about it. But when the situation comes to us, we will not be able to apply that principle. As long as that you are a witness from outside, you can say that, yeah, whatever he might say, don't worry about it, go ahead. But then when you are not a witness, when you are the party involved in that, then you get caught up in that. So this is what is sammoha, means hypnosis. Sammoha means that you are not there anymore. Outside is controlling you. The outside is what is managing you. In hypnosis also, the person who is hypnotized is under the control of somebody else who hypnotized him. And that's what these days, this whole kind of brainwashing that people do it. Wrong things they might get it done by these people by brainwashing. And when you're brainwashed, you feel that what they are doing is what you are doing is right. All these cults, they're developed like that. Today that you see this cult, the cult people are the people who make the followers to do what they would like to do it. And how did they do it? Don't they have better their own intelligence? They not think of it? No. You don't even have to go to the level of all this cult and all those things. But even these things, like the way that the guru, these days so-called gurus are there, they also like that they control the mind of the people by hypnotic way. And you might not look like that hypnosis in general that what we come across, but otherwise you see very clearly there is something wrong, but then you don't want to see that it is wrong. For you it looks nice because that somebody else said that it is right, so you also look at it as right. So that means what happened to your personality, your originality, your awareness? It's not there. The whole yoga is to go towards that consciousness. Consciousness itself is our awareness. And here, when you're hypnotized, means that you don't have your consciousness you're guided by somebody else. You became like any matter, like the way that I have a car and I start the car, it moves, I stop the car, I turn the wheel to the left, it goes to the left, it turns to the right, it goes to the right. So it's basically the car does not have any originality. The car is in your hands and you are the master of that car. And then you make the car to do whatever that you would like to do it. In spite of the fact that there is a tree opposite, you press the accelerator, the car still goes fast and then bumps against that particular tree. So this car is is like the one, the person is a hypnotized person is like this car and the driver in the driver's hand. Very often what happens is that this is how a person who has lost his awareness will do it. Like I was with some guest of I was a guest in somebody's house. There's a big medical doctor, and that lady, she said, Raghu, let's go to yoga center. And then she came and sat in the car and then sat down. She sat in the car, she's driving, and then I was sitting in the passenger seat. And she said, we have to go to the yoga center, and she's driving. And while driving, she said, see, I have to, this is the only time that I get to spend with you. Therefore, I'm with you. And so she's asking about all the details. I was talking to her. After driving for about 20 minutes or half an hour, she suddenly stopped the car, jammed the brakes. I said, and then she said, where have we come? I said, you are driving your city. Oh, I should have gone towards north, but I came towards south. I said, why did you come towards south if you wanted to go towards north? Then she said, no, south is my office. So my car brought me to the office. You see, look at the way what she does. She says that the car brought her. That means she has no awareness. This is what happens when you are in the state of hypnosis. You have no awareness. So therefore, sammoha is lack of awareness. Awareness means not being there. That means to say your consciousness is not there. Sammoha, smriti vibramaha. Look at the one simple thing is that you are driving the car, where you have to go, which turn to take, where you have to go. Uh, all these things are controlled by your intellect, and intellect has the continuously works with the memory that you have. So memory is involved, and then the present world outside is there. Your intellect is the one which plans all kinds of things, and then this all the mechanism is happening inside even without your knowledge. All these things are happening. But then what happens is that when all these things are happening, but then you are there, out of it that you take a decision. But then here, when you are hypnotized into, when you are not having that, when you are lack of awareness, at that point of time, that you can't even think of it. That means to say, memory has no use there, no importance there. All that memory that you have about where to go, what to do, and all those things, and then class, all these things are out of your picture. So therefore, when it comes that you are hypnotized, smriti bhramshaha, buddhi nashaha. So that means all the memory and the analysis, all those things drop off. In fact, terrorists have been brainwashed into that. That's why the terrorists are given in the training program that look, you do all this kind of thing. Innocent people, when you kill it, whether it is innocent or the other person, a warrior or anything like that, you kill anybody, you have a assured place in the heaven. And then there are young girls are waiting for you in the heaven. All these things are so much brainwashed into their brain, and then they believe in that. There is no question of any logic behind it. In fact, a very simple question of logic can remove that. And those persons could have asked if they had not that brainwash condition earlier. They could have easily said that, look, anyway, when I'm leaving this place and going to the heaven, by the time I leave this body here, now what is that I have there? All right, beautiful girls are there and everything is there, but then I don't even have body to enjoy it. In what way does it matter to me? But then all these questions do not come. That's why we have seen that the hardcore criminal and the terrorist who really attacked that Bombay, and when he was into hospital, and then they asked him that, look, What made you to do that? Is it not that innocent people that you are killing and they did not feel bad about it? I said, no, I felt no bad about it. But they're innocent people that you killed so many people. I said, doesn't matter. I'm told that there is in heaven there is a place for me, and then everybody is waiting for me to go to heaven. So either I die myself or that you kill me, you give put me into the gallows, that I'm going to reach there. So I don't have any problem with that. He was very cool and calm. And then most of these terrorists have that kind of an attitude. You can see that they're cool and calm because they have already given up. They are already dead for themselves. They are hypnotized into that death condition. So death does not disturb them. The idea of that you are going to be punished is never a question in front of them. So this is what is the way that Smriti Bhramshaha Buddhinasha. Buddhinasha leads to Pranashyati. So the whole idea now is two things. One is that normally we realize that we are in anger. Only when anger we realize. Before that anger, karma is there and then association there, sangha is there. All these things that we just take them for granted. Only when the anger comes up, then you see that anger disturbs you, disturbs the others. And therefore, immediately that everybody says, don't be angry. And people also say that, yes, I should not be angry. Somehow, every moment I become angry. Please tell me that how not to become angry. See, in this particular idea that Krishna has given in Bhagavad Gita, that anger is somewhere in the middle step. So that means to say, even before you come to the anger, that you have already crossed so many steps. First is dhyana, and then sangaha, and third is the kama. All these things you crossed, then only you came to anger, krodha. It is like the way that the plant has already come out of the seed and then has grown. When it has grown, you try to cut the plant, again the plant comes again. It does not die. So therefore, that we need to go to the root. That's what Krishna basically says in Bhagavad Gita. Don't try to cut it at the middle of it. Go to the root. The root is that basically dhyana. So object is not for the sake of dhyana for us. Dhyayato vishayan pumsaha. Vishaya dhyana for a man. It's not necessary. Vishaya is there. Object is there for the sake of your uh, taking care of your need. So as long as that your object, you use it for the sake of your need, then it does not develop into attachment. And then further damage will not be done further. So you can control it at that level. So awareness is the one which makes us to put that object into the need for us. And then beyond that, I don't want to stretch the object. Object is there. Object is not there. So this is what is the way that the spiritual direction starts from that level where you are involving into the object outside. You are really involved in the object outside because that you need it and the object is there in front of it. But at the same time, you do not allow it to proceed to the level where you become attached to it, sangha, and then kama. All these developments do not take place. So at that level, controlling is something what is necessary, not that later on that we do try to control the krodha. In fact, all that what you do when it has developed to that level of coming to the becoming anger, all that what you can do is that you will not change the anger, but all that what happens is that you suppress the anger. You only suppress the anger, but the anger is growing like a volcano within us. Your attachment is growing like a volcano within us. Your greed grows inside you like a volcano. So that's why we have to stop at that beginning itself and get involved into the world of activity. And this system that we have, this earlier childhood training, is to see that how a child is trained to see that without an object he is just happy, comfortable, he doesn't have any complaint. And then object is given, then he uses the object for the sake of need, but not for the greed. So these are the things which are there, and then later on, so many things that are there which are giving the idea of what a saint like, what a person who has reached that particular state. And that, what he described, applies to people like Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. people like Ramana Maharshi, Sri Aurobindo. You can see them. They manifested all these things. They also had the glimpses, much more deeper glimpses than anybody else has. But then look at their life. Their look at life is full of spirituality. They did not spoil themselves. They did not become slaves to these experiences. This is where last time I said that anybody who goes through this particular states of mind, maybe either meditation or maybe because of something else, he gets into these states where he is more and more peaceful within. But in the process, when you go, therefore, this going to the peaceful state of mind or meditation, the purpose is not to get various powers, etc., etc., but it is supposed to be for the sake of peace within. And the more and more that knowledge that grows, he should become more and more humble. That's why our scriptures say that the knowledge which makes you humble is the knowledge which becomes like a wisdom. A knowledge which becomes an arrogance, ego for you, it becomes like an arrogance. So let the knowledge make you humble, not arrogant. So this growth, this development is basically to be experienced. When this knowledge becomes makes you humble, you become like Rama. When it becomes like a arrogance, you become like Ravan. So people who are arrogant are the people not only that they are unhappy, they make others also unhappy. They don't have the peace of mind within themselves. Therefore, the goal of whole of this practice of yoga has to be that peace of mind. But then, as I last time I was giving that these various states of samadhi experiences, people may have it accidentally here and there. A lot of people have it, particularly people who have taken to initial stages idea of spirituality, either in the form of their their surroundings or the environment that has given that. But then, in spite of all those things, they get still attached to the power. These are the persons who get drifted away. Just because that some little benefit is there by their experiences inside, they get caught up in those benefits, and then these are the people who get misled by these things. That's why last time I gave the example of Ramakrishna Paramamsa and his dialogue with Hriday, his own nephew. He says that, look, 100 million times of great experience than this, I have it and I'm peaceful. Whereas small little glimpse of experience that you have, it already made you arrogant and you stopped calling me Thakur. You started calling me as Ramakrishna. And is it not wrong on your side? That means to say a small little experience has given you that kind of a boost within you that it became like arrogance. So let not our spiritual practice be our arrogance. And there is another important thing is that small little glimpse of something or the other that might happen. People would like to go by people would like to go by small little experiences. People would go by announcing that, advertising that I've gone this, I've seen this in my meditation, I've seen that. It's all because that you want somebody else's approval. It means that you are not confident of yourself, that you seek an approval from outside. A real spiritual growth, real spiritual person is the person who doesn't seek anybody's approach. He is peaceful within himself and he goes towards that peace. So there's also another thing that is there, that all these things should not be like announced outside. Many times, many people that they make announcement of these things to see that people come to them because of this announcement that they are given, because which means basically that these people had powers and they also would like to go for that practices for sake of power, not for peace. A person who attained the peace is peaceful. Like Buddha, he was peaceful. His goal was peace. Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, Ramana Maharshi. These are all the people who sought only the peace. Or Mahavir, they did not go for any powers. They did not look for any powers. But then there are saints, small little experiences there, but then they become arrogant. And this experience that they have is their own personal experience. It is within them. And you don't have to announce that. And what happens is that what is the way that you are behaving outside that matters. So, therefore, now, what is this experience that they have? It's like the way that you have a dream, it's your personal experience. I cannot deny your dream. You say that in the dream I have seen one, two, three, four. I have to accept it that you had dream. But then your dream doesn't matter to me more than, yes, I have heard your dream and that's wonderful. In your dream, you have seen all the different kinds of gods, different experiences. Fine, I don't deny that. But then what happens is that my concern is about what is there of all these experiences in your normal transaction outside. What is the way that you transact with the people outside? That's what matters. What you transact with the people outside is the one what matters. You are unnecessarily angry, upset, disturbed, you are very cranky, then I don't want that kind of an experience. I don't want you to go to that experience. But then I cannot deny that experience. It's your own experience. It's like the way that you're a dream. I cannot. So, what is this experiences? What are these experiences? And what is the dream? This is what is in the subtle world. So, what we interact with each other is gross world. But then, apart from this gross world, you have a subtle world. I have a subtle world that belongs to us. So, there in that subtle world, whatever that experiences, whatever that idea that I go through, it's personal, purely mine. Nobody, however near that person may be to me, doesn't convey to him anything. It doesn't make any sense to. But what makes sense is that when I come out, what is the way that I behave with the world outside? That's what matters. That's why Krishna has given that experience of Sthita Prajna Lakshanas. दुःखेषु अनुद्विग्नमनाः सुखेषु विगतस्पृहः वीतरागभयक्रोधः स्थितधीः मुनिरुच्यते. He says that these experiences, sukha and dukkha, that means the happiness and sorrow, these two experiences are there for every one of us. Whether he's a saint, whether he's an ordinary person. That's why everybody goes through the situations of misery, situations of elite. Yeah, it may not be even connected directly with you, but somebody who may be your friend, your associate, or somebody who is really made some prosperity, made some fortune, and you delight by that. So it does not make you feel disturbed in such a way that, look, he got it, I didn't get it. A lot of people get caught up in this particular thing, saying that he doesn't even deserve, but he got it. I do so much that I never got it. Compares with all those things. Whereas the person who is in that state, when he becomes in sickness, in sorrow, he doesn't get depressed into it. Dukkeshu anudvignamanaha. The mind is very peaceful even in the case of dukkha. Sukheshu vikataspruha. Small little happiness, a good experience that comes, does not make him lose his consciousness, balance. Vitaraga bhaya krodha stitadihi muniruchyate. Raga, bhaya, krodha, these are all the things which are associated with the world outside. As long as you are in this world, these things are there. In all these cases, that his balanced state of mind continues. Sthitadihi muniruchyate. A lot of times people have this idea, all right, if I go through all this meditation, etc., experience, then I will not have dukkha, I will not have unhappiness. No, you also have dukkha, you also have sukha. The happiness is there. This is a very beautiful idea. Sukham and Dukkham, these two are the words for the sake of happiness and sorrow. But then this word, when you look at it, it is nothing but kham, derived from kham. Su plus kham is sukham. Duhu plus kham is dukkham. Kham means space, akasha. Kham means basically there is no boundary. It's a boundaryless state. That's why it is called as space. Not only that, kham means that whatever that anything is possible there. Every possibility is there. That's the definition given to the space. Space is that where anything is possible. I can put anything there. The space does not get hurt. Space does not say that, look, you have to replace me, that you have to be the place. The space does not get disturbed by that. That's what is called as space, which is called as calm. But then the space, when it is there, sometimes it gets into such problem because of confinement, because of some angularities and all that, and then gives us the pain. That's what is called a dukkham. Whereas the space, when he gives us further expansion, that's what is called as sukham. That's why whenever you find somebody in a happy state, there's so much of an expansiveness within him. When he is happy, you go and ask him anything, it's okay. He will be easy. When somebody goes there and child goes and complains about some mistake, forget about it. He's a child. Don't make a complaint about it. So all these things show that sukham is something which is expansive, not only in the case of space outside, but even in the mind, even intellect, everywhere. It is a spaceness which gives that kind of a thing. Spaceness within you. Dukkham is basically boundaried. Anything outside that, it will not falls. You will not be able to take it. So that's what is dukkham. So basically, sukha and dukkha, both these things do happen. Yeah. And somebody is putting somebody on the cross, definitely there is dukkha. Somebody is giving him a poison, like in the case of Socrates, yes, definitely there is a dukkha. But then what happens is for a common person, small little simple dukkha can really upset them. And then he loses his balance. Whereas a person who is at that level, highest state of level, he is fixed on the cross. He says, forgive them, O Lord. They don't know what they are doing. Yes, he did not say, I don't have pain. I have pain. But in spite of this pain, that I do not convert myself into cursing somebody and looking at the mankind as something which is treacherous and bad. And that is not there within him. Same thing that you could see in the case of Rama, how beautifully that he manages that peaceful state within him. When he was invited to be the prince, the coronation ceremony is to be there. It's such a supposed jubilant state of being for him. At that time also he was very balanced and peaceful. But when the second time when his father called him, his mother demanded that her son Bharata will give the kingdom and Rama will go to the forest for 14 years. He was so balanced, he came out of that place and then he saw all those objects that were ready for decoration for the prince next day. The moment he saw that, he was so happy that all these things will be decorated to his own brother. And then now his brother is going to be the king. Therefore, he bows in front of them out of respect. He did not complain that actually I should have been wearing all those things. I should have been put on with all those things. That is not there. So sukha and dukkha are something which happens in the day-to-day life, happens in sorrow. But then he does not get overboard with both these things, situations. Especially what happens is that when sukha comes, dukkha at least many times that we can tolerate it, we can somehow absorb it. But sukha is something which is very difficult to tolerate. And particularly unexpected way that you are pushed into something which is like blissful state, happy state, joyful state, naturally that you become a victim. That's why we have that beautiful story where a patient had a heart patient and then he was convulsing. Wife was there with him, and then the doctor was a surgeon who took care of him. But then it so happened that when it was that condition was there at that time, the person who was a patient who won a lottery for something like about 10 million rupees or something like that. But then how to tell him? Because that he is already a heart patient, the heart condition. And if you tell him the 10 millions rupees that you got it, then it might really shatter his heart. So even the good news that you should not give him, and then she did not know what to do. The wife goes to the doctor and requests the doctor, see, this is I'm supposed to give him because that bank account, it has to be all the details and all those things. Therefore, that how to tell him, because if I tell him that it might really pressurize his heart. The doctor said, yes, it's really correct. So therefore, you don't tell it. Let me slowly introduce, little by little, like an anecdote that I just enter into him, explain about all these things and take, so that I can convince her. Wife agreed. And then when the doctor was there with the patient, he casually talked everything, and afterwards, like a jolly mood, joyful mood, he said, hey, my dear friend, okay, if I give you something like about $100,000, 100,000 rupees, what are you going to do? Suppose if I give you 100,000 rupees, what are you going to do? Then this patient was there, he said, Doc, you're such a good friend of mine, and you've given me life. Today I'm alive, it's all because of you. You're like God for me. And suddenly, if I get 100,000 rupees or something like that, definitely half of it I'll give it to you. 50,000 I will definitely right away give it to you. Finish. 50 million I'll give it to you. The moment that the doctor heard that, he had a heart attack. That means to say, he still did not introduce him everything, but even before that, whatever that he promised the doctor to do, and that doctor himself whipped him for that. So dukkeshu andugnamanaha sukeshu vigataspruha vitaraga bhayakrodha sthitati munirujyate. So ultimately the idea is to see that how you are peaceful. The situation keep wavering. That's what he says, that like the way that the flame that is kept in the wind, your whole personality is wavering, mind is wavering, your desires are wavering, all these things are wavering. Study all those things. Yathadipo nivatasto ningate sopamasprutaha. Yogino yatachittas. Make your mind calm. That's what is the state of yoga. A calm state of mind is yoga. So all these people that they have that experience who focused on only the peace, they are the persons who are really masters of this society. But then the others who also had that glimpses of these experiences, but then their focus was not on the peace but on the powers. By doing what you get, what kind of power, all those things, they become like demons, rakshasas. They're not anywhere else. That's why I gave the example of Ravan, who also did so much of penance, yoga, and meditation. But then, whatever the power that he got, he misused it. And he was not the right kind of a person that they do it. His experiences are the experience. Sometimes people might have these experiences just like that. In fact, long time ago, I had a friend of mine who came from USA, and he had a power of you know some psychokinetic powers. That means to say, he takes a spoon in his hand, without even touching the spoon, he bends that spoon, twists that spoon. So all those things we could see with the naked eyes. Wow. He did not use the force or did not anything. He was just holding it in his hand, and then that bent completely. After doing showing few things, then when he came in a private session afterwards, somebody tried to give him the keys that they had. Please don't do that, because if I twist the keys into some different shape, then you will be loose. You will be lost. You cannot go back home with this kind of a key. So that means basically that there is he has a special power. I asked him that when did you get it? How did you get it? He confessed to me that in his childhood days, Suddenly, one day he found out that he has this ability to twist it by looking at it, bending it without looking at it. Wow, I was surprised. My parents were surprised. My colleagues were surprised. How did they do it? Even I didn't know how to do it. I only said that it just happens to me. And that has been happening with me. But then he said very important thing about that. He said that my spirituality is not all these things, bending the spoon or twisting that or producing an ashes from my pocket, from my hand. These are not my spirituality. My spirituality is inner peace. These are all the things which either might happen because of some mechanical arrangement or maybe some hypnotic way that one gets into that state to do that. So this is the one which a lot of people encash into become spiritual leaders. Unfortunately, that's what happened. Unfortunately, that happened. But he grow. It's not that those people have made them to grow spiritually, but actually it is their own shraddha, belief, trust in these people is the one which takes them forward. And not only that, lacking, not having any other desire is the one which makes him to go in this particular direction so speedily. So therefore, that not having desire to become something, to achieve something, when all that desire drops off, you become peaceful inside. That's what is the state ultimately that you need to reach. In between that people who have reached, in between stages, they develop all these different powers, their focus is different powers. And that boy, that man, friend of mine from group, he said that yes, this power of bending the spoon by looking at it is something which suddenly I discovered. I did not know that I have this power, and I don't even know what's the mechanism behind it. And having that particular idea in my view, that I tried several things like that, several ideas. So I use them in my entertainment shows. And I'm very certain, I tell people that these are not the real spirituality. The real spirituality is in what you see in Ramana Maharshi. Ramana Maharshi is there absolutely without any attachment, he is there. Ramakrishna Paramamsa. These are the people who are such great people. So this is what he says that I do meditation, I follow my teacher and all those things for my spiritual growth. But these miracles and all that I show for the entertainment of the people. And there's another very interesting thing that he said is that all these things that I do is not against the nature. Nothing is against the nature. Like the way that without touching the spoon, I bend it and the spoon bends. Spoon bending is something which is natural if you apply the force. You see, you can apply the force and the spoon bends. Are the same thing that when you apply the force, spoon bends. The same way, for me, I might be able to apply the force through my eyes or something like that, but really, bending takes place. So that means to say that these powers do exist in some people. Somebody produces ash, somebody produces, and these things do not have anything to do with the spirituality. But unfortunately, what happened is that the whole world, in the name of spirituality, they're looking for all these miracles happening, miracle way of doing it. Even the people who don't have any miracle way of doing it, sincere sadhakas that are there, slowly what happens over a period of time, even for the sake of recognition of the people that he is spiritual, he creates all these anecdotes and stories which are defying the nature. If you are really spiritual, you respect the nature. You don't defy the nature. You don't deny the nature. You don't try to walk opposite to the nature. You are growing in the flow of the river. You are not swimming across against the current of the river. The current is taking you in one direction. You don't go in the opposite direction if you are really sincere. As far as the nature is concerned, you don't want to violate the nature. You want to respect the nature. So this is something which is very important. Mullah Nasruddin was sitting near a river and then doing some reading some book or something other and listening to some music. Suddenly somebody came running to Mullah and said that, Mullah, what is that you are doing here? Sitting and listening to the music and all those things. Mullah said, what happened? He said, look, your wife went to the river and then she was fell into the river, and then the current, the river current has already is dragged her away. So she may be in danger. She needs your help. Mullah got up immediately and then ran in the opposite direction from the current of the river. The friend asked, Arey Baba, she is carried away by the current of the river that you are walking in the opposite direction. What is that? Mullah said that I know my wife much more than you know it. Whatever she does, she always wants to go against the nature. That I know very well. Here also the same way that river water takes her in the downwards, but I'm very sure that she is trying to fight the river water's flow downwards and going in the upward direction. That's why I go to the upward direction to find out her. I know her nature much very well. So spirituality is not running against the nature, respecting the nature, violating the nature, and that's not always the way that spirituality is all that. The powers, positions, the idea is to see that somebody can do violate the nature, violate, go against this particular nature. This is how unnecessarily spirituality is connected with all these miracles people do it. If somebody does miracles or somebody does all kinds of sleighting of the hand, that means to say all tricks with the hand and all those things, they are fine. They have entertainment value. I do not give a bit of spiritual significance for these things. And that's why all these, very beautifully it is said that in Indian culture, all these gods and goddesses who are supposed to be power centers, when they also have to get a liberation, they have to come to the human being in the human form, and then only they can get liberated. So this very idea, the scriptures talk about it, shows that ultimately what is the practice of all those things is not to create a miracle out of it, not to create a something which is against the nature of the universe. I follow the nature. And that's what is the way that we try to do this. So let's stop it here. Next time when I come, this aspect, what I was telling about, what experiences that somebody has in the subtle and what experience somebody has is the gross. So what is gross and what is subtle and what is supposed to be karana? That means to say the seed. We'll see all these three things next time when we meet. We'll stop it here at this level. Om Tat Sat. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.